Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, and to first offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the Goddess of Learning, unto Shri Vyasa the Devata. Shringatam Swakata Krishna,
Shringatam Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha,
Punyam Kirtanaha,
Vidyantasto Bhadrani,
Vidyantasto Bhadrani,
Vidunoti Suritsatam,
Vidinoti Suritsatam.
Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, plans his desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly read and chanted. Nasaprayeshu Bhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya,
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya,
Bhagavati Uttama-shloke,
Bhagavati Uttama-shloke,
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki,
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki,
regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the true devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
2:6:22.
Am I allowed to get my own lessons here? It's not against the rules, is it?
2:6:22. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want two ones. That's right.
I was going to do it.
No, there's a rule you're not supposed to.
Uh-oh.
What? You have to-
The Garland police.
Huh? I'm going on all by myself. Is
The
that
Garland police on the way.
I didn't do that.
I don't know if there's a rule. So, we have a reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Purusha Shukta confirmed, and it is text 22. Let's see if I just Yasmad,
Yasmad,
Andam,
Andam,
Virad,
Virad,
Jagye,
Jadye,
Yasmad Andam Virad Jagye,
Yasmad, Andam, Virad, Jadye,
Bhutendriya,
Bhutendriya,
Gunatmakaha,
Gunatmakaha,
Bhutendriya Gunatmakaha,
Bhutendra, Makaha,
Tad
Tad,
Dravyam,
Dravyam,
Atyagad,
Atyagad,
Vishvam,
Vishvam,
Tad Dravyam Atyagad Vishvam,
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Gopi,
Gopi
Surya,
Surya
Ivatapan,
Ivatapan
Gopi Surya Ivatapan,
Gopi Surya Ivatapan
Yasmad Andam Virad Yagye,
Jasmanandam Virajyajye
Bhutendriya Gunatmakaha,
Bhutendriya Gunatmakaha
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam,
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Gopim Surya Ivatapan,
Gopi Surya Ivatapan
Yasmadandam Virad Jagye,
Jasmanandam Virajyajye
Bhutendriya Gunatmakaha,
Bhutendriya Gunatmakaha
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam,
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Gopi Surya Ivatapan.
Gopi Surya Ivatapan Jasmadandam Virajyajye
Yasmadandam Virajyajye
Bhutendriya Gunatmaka
Bhutendriya Gunatmaka
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Gopi Surya Ivatapam
Gopi Surya Ivatapan.
Is that go he, yeah?
Gopi he, but they don't pronounce that he, extra he.
Yasmadadam Virad Yagne,
Jasmadandam Virajyajye
Bhutendriya Gunamakaha,
Bhutendriya Gunatmaka
Tadvayam Adyaga Vishvam,
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Gopi Surya Ivatapam,
Gopi Surya Ivatapam
Yasmadandam Virajyajye
Jasmadandam Virajyajye
Bhutendriya Gunatmaka
Bhutendriya Gunatmaka
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Gopi Surya Ivatapan
Gopi Surya Ivatapam
Yashmadandam Virajyajne,
Jasmadandam Virajyajye
Bhutendriya Gunatmakaha,
Bhutendriya Gunatmaka
Tadadram Atyagad Vishvam,
Tadravyam Atyagad Vishvam
Gopi Surya Ivatapan,
Gopi Surya Ivatapam
Word meaning Yasmat,
Yasmat.
from whom?
From whom?
Andam,
Andam.
the universal globes.
The universal globes.
Virat,
Virat.
and the gigantic universal form.
And the gigantic universal form.
Jagye,
Yagni
appeared.
appeared.
Bhuta,
Bhuta.
elements.
Elements.
Indriya,
Indriya.
senses.
Senses.
Guna atmakaha,
Guna atmakaha.
qualitative.
Qualitative.
Tat dravyam,
Tadrayam.
the universes and the universal form, etc.
The universes and the universal form, etc.
Atyagat,
Ajagat.
surpassed.
Surpassed.
Vishvam,
Vishvam.
all the universes.
All the universes.
Gobihi,
Gobihi.
by the rays.
By the rays.
Surya,
Surya.
the sun.
The sun.
Eva,
Eva.
like.
Like.
Atapan,
Atapan.
distributed rays and heat.
Distributed rays and heat.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Actually, the word meanings are by him too, so we'll back up for that too, I suppose. Translation. Some people just say about purport by Srila Prabhupada, but the translation and the word meanings are also his genius. So, his inspiration. Translation. From that personality of Godhead, all the universal globes and the universal form with all material elements, qualities, and senses are generated. Yet, he is aloof from such material manifestations like the sun, which is separate from its rays and heat. Please repeat. From that personality of Godhead,
From that personality of Godhead,
all the universal globes
all the universal globes
and the universal form with all material elements,
and the universal form with all material elements,
qualities, and senses are generated. Yet he is aloof from such material manifestations.
Yet he is aloof from such material manifestation,
Like the sun, which is separate from its rays and heat.
which is separate from its rays and heat.
Purport. The supreme truth has been ascertained in the previous verse as Purusha, or the Purushottama, the supreme person. Purusha means person. Purusha. Uttama is ultimate. Supreme person, Purushottama. The absolute person is the Ishvara, or the supreme controller, by his different energies. The Ekapad Vibhuti manifestation of the material energy of the Lord. Remember, Ekapad, Padbhuti is 1/4. I guess Pada is a fourth, because Eka is 1. And Tri Padbhuti means 3/4. That's the spiritual word. That was in the previous verses. So Ekapad Vibhuti, manifestation of the material energy of the Lord, is just like one of the many mistresses of the Lord, by whom the Lord is not so much attracted, as indicated in the language of the Gita, Bina Prakriti. I looked that up. Bina means separated. Prakriti is material energy. So the separated material energies. So the language of the Gita means a little separated. But the region of the Tripad Vibhuti, 3/4 of the existence, being a pure spiritual manifestation of the energy of God, is, so to speak, more attractive to him. The Lord, therefore, generates the material manifestations by impregnating the material energy, and then, within the manifestation, he expands himself as a gigantic form of the Vishvarupa. The Vishvarupa, as it was shown to Arjuna, is not the original form of the Lord. The original form of the Lord is the transcendental form of Purushottama, or Krishna himself. It is very nicely explained herein that he expands himself just like the sun. The sun expands itself by its terrible heat and rays, yet the sun is always aloof from such rays and heat. The impersonalist takes into consideration the rays of the Lord without any information of the tangible, transcendental, eternal form of the Lord, known as Krishna. Prabhupada makes a point to put in tangible, like you could touch him. Tangible, transcendental, eternal form of the Lord, known as Krishna. Therefore, Krishna, in his supreme personal form, with 2 hands and flute, is bewildering for the impersonalist who can accommodate only the gigantic Vishvarupa of the Lord. They should know that the rays of the sun are secondary to the sun. And similarly, the impersonal and gigantic form of the Lord is also secondary to the personal form as Purushottama. The Brahma Samhita 537 confirms the statement as follows. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Prati Pavitavis Tatvir Yaeva Nijarupa Taya Kaladi Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Mari Hudu Shantaraham Bhajami. The Supreme Personality of, quote, is the translation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, the one who enlivens the senses of everyone by his personal bodily rays, resides in his transcendental abode called Goloka, yet he is present in every nook and corner of his creation by expansion of happy spiritual rays, equal in power to his personal potency of bliss, end quote. It is therefore simultaneously personal and, he is therefore simultaneously personal and impersonal by his inconceivable potency, or he is the one without a second, displaying complete unity in a diversity of material and spiritual manifestations. He is separate from everything, and still nothing is different from him. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, this ends up on a Chitya Veda Veda Tattva, inconceivably simultaneously one and different. So this is summing up everything about Krishna, that he is original Krishna. He expands. Then there's the Brahmajyoti. There's the Vishvarupa made out of the Brahmajyoti. In the sense the material elements are made somehow from the Brahmajyoti, according to our previous verse, and covered by illusion. So it's all kind of said in here that he expands himself in these different forms, that he's originally a Krishna in the spiritual world, full of bliss and giving bliss to everyone. And there's Paramamba, there's Brahmajyoti, which is Brahman. Then there's a Chitya Veda Veda Tattva, he's simultaneously one with and different from. It's all here in this paragraph. So having summed it up that way, I'm going to look at the details. He quotes Brahma Samhita 537, and he translates it here in quite a different way from how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta translated it. So I was curious because I knew this was strictly Prabhupada's language. So I wondered how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta translated it. So it's really different. Let me read this again as Prabhupada said it. It is not this different in meaning, but the angle of vision, the depth of vision is different for a reason, because this is the beginning of the Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada can't go into the depths yet for the reader, so he has to say it a different way. Okay, so his translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, the one who enlivens the senses of everyone by his personal bodily rays, resides in his transcendental abode called Goloka, yet he is present in every nook and corner of his creation by expansion of happy spiritual rays, equal in power to his personal potency of bliss. End quote. That's how Prabhupada translates that verse, which is translated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in this way. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency, possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidantes, sakis, confidants, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. How to get that out of the same verse? It's different, isn't it? I was trying to figure this out. But it's different angles of vision, different degrees of closeness, different degrees of intimacy. So they're both true. They're both. Here's the word meanings, and I will read only the English part of the word meanings. Bliss and knowledge, consisting of knows every second, who are engrossed with those who, certainly with his own forms, who are parts of portions of his pleasure potency, in Goloka Vrindavan certainly resides as the soul of all who exists, Govinda, the original personality, him I worship. So where would we be without the pure devotee acharyas who can give us this knowledge in translations, and they are not interpreting as we are told not to do. They are seeing the real meaning, and they're enlightening us by bringing out the truths of these sometimes a little bit obscure verses, because they're like, what's the word? Vedanta Sutra. Sometimes the verses are like sutras. They're poetic and they contain meaning. And the pure devotee acharyas know what that meaning is, and they know all the levels of that meaning. And they can bring it out, and they can bring it out appropriate for the audience. It's so amazing. The meaning is all there, and it's like condensed in this poetic form. And that's what sutra means. It's like an aphorism that contains a lot of meaning in simple, somewhat poetic form. So they know the meaning in it. They can bring it out, and it's a translation, and it's a perfectly valid translation. It's not some interpretation like we're not supposed to do. They can do that. So they enlighten us by bringing this out. I thought that was, in a way, pretty fascinating. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around how both of these translations, I'll read the Prabhupada's again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the one who enlivens the senses of everyone by his personal bodily rays, resides in his transcendental abode called Goloka, yet he is present in every nook and corner of his creation by expansion of happy spiritual rays, equal in power with his personal potency of bliss. Both these meanings are contained in that verse. And it's hard for me to wrap my mind around how they're both contained in the verse, because I keep, I read from one to the other, and I read the word meanings, and then I forget what, my mind can't hold the whole thing. But it's all there. So the acharyas know. They can bring it out according to the audience. Quite fascinating to me. So what's the other points in here? Other points, let's see. That Krishna is, let me read it again. This is mistress, but he's not as attractive.
Well, to the Bhagavad Gita.
Huh?
He's not as attracted to the Bhagavad Gita.
No. The Ekapad Vibhuti manifestation of the material energy of the Lord is just like one of the many mistresses of the Lord, by whom the Lord is not so much attracted, as indicated in the language of the Gita, Vina Prakriti, separated material energies. But the region of the Tripad Vibhuti, being a pure spiritual manifestation of the energy of the Lord, is, so to speak, more attractive to him. So I looked that up in the Brahma Samhita also. So verse 10 and 45, which I'll read out. The idea that Krishna is aloof somewhat from the material energy, which is a female form, but he's somewhat aloof. He just glances, whereas he embraces all kind of activities with Radharani and the gopis. So gopis are expansions of Radharani, and there's a lot of more touching. And in the material world, there's this mistress also, which is the material energy. He's not as attractive. He glances. He impregnates her by his glance. So it's different, but he feels some lack. I don't know where I read that. He feels some lack, and so he wants to enliven the souls, the material energy. He wants to bring that. He feels some lack, but he's not as attractive. So he glances, impregnates by his glance. But it's not just a glance, because then there's Shambhu. So this is what's interesting, and Brahma Samhita explains about Shambhu. So let's see. 10. Shambhu is a name for Shiva. Shambhu means Sada Shiva, eternal Shiva. There's eternal Shiva, and there are the Rudras that come out in creation. So here's 5.10, Brahma Samhita 5.10. The person embodying the material causal principle, Vihazi, the great lord of this mundane world, Maheshwara, Shambhu, in the form of the male generating organ, is joined to his female consort, the limited energy, Maya, as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him, by small h. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him, small h, which means Shambhu, by his, capital H, subjective portion in the form of his, capital H, glance. So, Shambhu is the completion of Mahavishnu's glance. Shambhu is an expansion of Mahavishnu, and he completes the glance of impregnating the material energy. So he is the Lord of this world. That's why materialists like to worship Lord Shiva, because he's the material father. He's the hands-on father, you might say, of this world. So they worship him, but he gives material things. And let's see, the other one explaining this relationship is 545. Okay, 545. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as nor different from its cause, that is, milk. So I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. So that's the origin of the comparison of Lord Shiva is like yogurt, where yogurt is, or curd, there's a contaminant in the milk. And in the case of yogurt, the contaminant is even, it's bacteria, so it's even better. When he used the word curd, and I think he means yogurt. And I think it says something before maybe, so I don't know how we know it. Forgot to check that out. But anyways, that curd or yogurt is still milk. It isn't anything else but milk. Yet it can never be milk again. It's changed. So Lord Shiva, or Shambhu, the Sada Shiva, eternal Shiva, is an expansion of Mahavishnu. And he is involved with material energy. He's affected by it. He's involved with his wife, his consort, the personified material energy, by many names. And he is involved with the work of destruction of material energy. So every birth means there's going to be some destruction too. So there's birth. He impregnates, there's birth. All the souls get born into the material world. And that means there's death, there's destruction. So it's all a material thing. It's lower. Mahavishnu is aloof from all that. But yet his portion, his part, expanded from him, who's not different from him, but yet is different from him. Sadashiva. And all the Rudras are the created Shivas in the material world. They're also Shivas. I'm not exactly sure about the relationship, but they are Shiva can mean Rudra, can mean Shambhu. So, anyways, it's the material father and mother, this way. So Lord Shiva is completing Mahavishnu's glance. And Mahavishnu does not have to be more involved in that. So Mahavishnu feels some lack, and he wants the souls to have some activity and so they can come back to a relationship. He wants to relate to the material energy in that way, but he's aloof. So he's aloof like the sun and his rays. The rays of the sun are aloof from the sun. They're there, but they're different. They come from it, but they're different. So this is really, really important to understand. We do encounter Shiva worshippers. It's so important to understand for that reason. And it's important to understand because it's the pastimes of Krishna. Advaitacharya, in fact, is an incarnation of both Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. So how can that be? Well, because they're the same. But they're the same but different. So that's how he can be incarnation of both. It's not like some two personalities combined, but there's really one personality under different conditions, I guess. Or one is not under conditions and one is under conditions. So, that's why it doesn't look familiar with some position. I'm just going to check and see if there's more stuff because I already said it. I can remember what I was thinking of. So we can go again and say how in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna shows Arjuna himself, how he pervades this everything. And then he's actually showing him, ultimately, not just showing him the universal form, which is the external, because at first he showed him the external, then he said, but you can't see me. So then he gave him transcendental eyes, and all of a sudden Arjuna is seeing all the manifestations of Supersoul in the whole universe, like millions and millions and millions of manifestations of Supersoul, glaring like the sun, and ultimately devouring. And so this is what was the point here? This Vishvarupa is not the original form of the Lord. So, and then, Arjuna then wanted to, it was like overwhelming. He said, well, can I please see your forearm form? I want to see that form. And of course, this was his forearm form, but many arm form. Many heads, arms, mouths, weapons, etc. Unlimitedly. He wanted to see the forearm form Vishnu, just simply as Vishnu. Okay, there he is, majestic, beautiful Lord Vishnu. But then Krishna turned himself back into his own self, Krishna. And he said, the form you're seeing with your transcendental eyes is very beautiful. So Arjuna was still seeing with transcendental eyes. So I try to imagine what he might have been. Maybe he was seeing Vrindavan Krishna or something. But he was seeing that. He was seeing not Krishna as the embodied conditioned souls around him saw Krishna as a political figure on this political scene. But he was seeing him then as the beautiful Lord Krishna, beautiful Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm just trying to imagine. He was seeing his friend Krishna, but with transcendental eyes. So he was seeing how beautiful Krishna is. And I think I might have come to the end of my thoughts on this. Any comments or questions to add to this? Yes.
It's interesting how in the verse about the yogurt, the word for word does say dadi, D-A-D-H-I, and it's interpreted as yogurt. And then it talks about the acid action makes curd, which is true too, because we use acidic acid, right? So,
and yogurt has acid in it.
That's true from the
acid from the bacteria.
From the bacteria, because that's what.
If you heat yogurt, it makes curd. If you heat it up, it starts making curd. If it's just a little bit warmer than room temperature, and the bacteria grows, it has that creamy.
And that's what Greek yogurt is, a thick.
What?
Greek yogurt, it's like a thick yogurt.
No, they just drain. It's like Shrikant. They drain out
The whey.
The whey.
Okay.
That's Greek yogurt. But if you happen to put yogurt in your recipe and you put the yogurt in while you're still cooking, and it's still boiling, you find it separating into little particles. It'll become curd. You change a little.
Cool. And ekapad means that's the 1/4 of the universe, and tripad is the 3/4. Tripada.
Is that in the word meanings here?
Shribhuti. Vibhuti. Thank you.
Milk, yata is study yogurt, vikar, shall be special transformation, yogat by application, sanjayati is transformed. Is tripad, that's not in this verse. You're looking at something else when you say tripad.
The original, this one, 2:6:22.
Are you done yet? Are you done yet?
It's interesting. You said that in the verse that I was trying to figure out who said what, but the Brahma Samhita is by Prabhupada's guru, and then in the Bhagavad Gita, that Brahma Samhita verse was penned by Prabhupada.
Yeah, Prabhupada was not ready to reveal the intimate secrets of these.
So he didn't put it in the Bhagavad
Gita. The Radharani and the gopis, and he wasn't putting it. This is only the second canto.
Right.
So he made it very, very understandable to the beginners.
Right.
And he pointed out that the rays are in this world too, which they are in both verses, but he focused on that more than the rays go everywhere. They focused on that for the beginners.
Right.
Is that everything?
No.
You're next. And then you. While he's looking, what are you?
It was interesting about Shambhu, but that's another day.
Let me go to the next. Ashtika, please.
So, one understanding of Sadashiv is that he lives in Goloka Vrindavan, right? So, can we say that he is eternal or?
Well, Sada means eternal. Sadashiva is eternal.
Is
He's always, but in the material world, he has a certain function. And then the Rudras are created by Brahma or from Brahma or something, something like that. And I'm not sure if there are expansions of Sadashiva or if there are different souls who are sons of Sadashiva in some way. I'm not sure how that all works. You ever think that, what you were going to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, how Prabhupada translates Brahma Samhita's verse in this purport. So it's not quite, I can't understand what exactly he means by all this happy transcendental rays and personal rays, because we know with Brahma Jyoti, it's also rays of Lord, right? But how we call it, impersonal rays, or how we call it personal, so I'm not sure how we call Brahma Jyoti.
Brahma Jyoti is the personal rays.
Personal rays, yeah, but if you read this translation, he says that, I already closed it, but as I remember, that in Goloka Krishna is present and he gives joy to everybody by his personal rays, but with your personal rays we know to be Brahma Jyoti. So he means something else, if yes, then what he means, or if he means Brahma Jyoti, then what he means anyway, so I don't understand.
I'll try it. Brahma Jyoti, the whole material manifestation is a transformation of the Brahma Jyoti, for one thing. Mm-hmm. Because it said that, Lord Brahma said that in a verse in the beginning of this chapter or the last chapter, somewhere. And so we talked about that. So they're always happy rays. But if we don't perceive them, then we're not happy. If we don't understand them, if we're not happy, we won't understand them if we're not serving. But they're always happy rays, and the sun is a visible manifestation of these rays, visible to our eyes. And when the sun comes out, we feel happier. When the morning comes, we feel happier than in the dark. So they're always happy rays. They're always happy rays, but we don't necessarily see them or perceive them.
But it said that he gives pleasure in Goloka by these rays. So I don't understand, because Brahma Jyoti is not in Goloka.
It's there too.
It comes from him, yeah. But then what is said in the end, that by his happy rays, which are equal in the what is that, equal in the potency or what?
He is present in every nook and corner of his creation by expansion of happy spiritual rays, equal in power to his personal potency of bliss.
Personal potency of bliss is Radharani, no?
And that's or he is. You could say it. You could understand that way, or you could understand he's made of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So I don't know which way it's meant here. It's his own bliss or Radharani.
But still, I think Radharani, because if comparing to translation of Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati, but I'm just saying that he says that equal in power. What does it mean that it's equal in power?
Well, it's all on the Vishnu Tattva level. It's all Krishna. So it can't be unequal in power. The best I can do.
Yeah, but we know the equal in power, but still, the yogis who merge into Krishna and the Brahman, and they go into Brahma Jyoti. So they're in this happy race, equal in power.
Why do they say that the happiness of the impersonal liberation is like watering a footprint of a calf compared to the devotion to Krishna? Because there's happiness in it. And they feel the happiness, but it's only a small amount compared to actually interacting with Krishna and serving him.
Is there happiness actually they don't feel misery, or what kind of happiness they have?
They feel some kind of bliss, yeah. They're happy, but it's just not anything compared to the interaction with that person, Krishna. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the real them is Satchidananda, so they are happy.
But they have, in the Brahma Jyoti, they have only Sat and Chit, right?
So they're
Brahma Jyoti is only.
But they're souls.
Yeah, but
can they realize the happiness?
No, but Prabhupada says that when you realize Sat, then you realize Brahman, and when you realize
there is happiness in it. There's the sunshine makes you happy, and it comes from the Brahma Jyoti. There's happiness in it. Equal in potency, well, it's powerful, but what you experience of it, what you get from it, is not as good as if you totally surrender and serve Krishna.
Yeah, because they don't realize Ananda, they don't realize personal aspect. That's why.
Yeah, how powerful does it have to be to create the material world? For the whole material world is made out of it. So it's powerful. It's Krishna's, right?
Yeah, and I remember, in the initial Upanishad, Prabhupada said that there's three kinds of realization, auspicious, more auspicious than the most auspicious, so like that. So
But it's all equal and equal in power to Krishna, but what are our experiences of it? If we just be impersonal, yeah, it's powerful, but we can't, we don't, our real happiness comes from that service. So, did somebody else do?
It's interesting. This verse about the happy rays is 2:6:22. Boom.
We gotta see what
It's the one we talk about today.
Where did you think I found it?
I was on another page and I typed in happy spiritual rays, and it brought us back to
Yeah.
the verse for today.
I'm not that clever that I would find this verse in some deep search.
It went cycling. That's really cool. Every nook and corner, but some people would say cranny, but corner.
Every nook and corner.
In the corner where there's no sunshine, he's still there.
Yeah, it's there, but it's just our vision, it's covered.
Yeah.
So we are in ignorance. We're under Maya. We're under illusion. So we identify with the body, and the body's only allowed to perceive certain things. So we think that's what defines everything. So that's our problem. But it's all there. This is all Brahma Jyoti. It's all Brahma Jyoti. So full of Krishna's light, but these eyes don't register.
It's also funny that in the Upanishad there's prayer that please remove the covering of your rays, Brahma Jyoti. So like Krishna is covered by Brahma Jyoti is covered by some other stuff because we can't see it.
It's a series of uncovering. Yeah, it's a whole series.
You should have asked the eye doctor for spiritual insight.
Yeah, we got another surgery I don't want any more surgery, but
Another surgery for spiritual sight.
By
Krishna and the spiritual master.
But knowing that there are so many coverings, you can understand how ignorant, and how unfortunate our condition is that we still cannot see even Brahma Jyoti.
we see a lot more than. I'm just realizing the difference of what we've been able to see because my brother is Christian and we just started actually, we agreed to not take offense and he really wants discussion. He has his opinions, but he wants discussion. And so I finally explained to him how we see Jesus as Shakti Avatar, what that means. We see him as a jiva, and the Nicene Council put Jesus up with Vishnu Tattva basically, and individual souls with the body. And they're created when the body is created. So that was the decision of the Nicene Council. But before that, there was some argument as to whether there was actually souls pre-existed the body, and Jesus was among the souls, but just empowered. And so that's more like what we think, but that got voted out. So I was explaining that to him, and I was thinking, I really, he's my brother, and for some reason I always want to tell him stuff, even though he's sort of dumb and stubborn, but I really always want to tell him stuff. And
he's your younger brother, so you can say
1 year younger than me, so 1.5 years younger than me. So for some reason I'm really involved in wanting to tell him things, and he won't hear, but he won't look. But so finally we're having a little discussion. I'm thinking, wow, he is so far behind. I can hardly remember before I understood these things.
But he's a senior in the church he's in too.
Yeah.
He's a senior
He's
teacher.
been Christian for many years, thanks to me.
Oh,
I've been a
30,
Christian
40
before.
years.
I found the
50
devotees and I talked him into it. Yeah, he's still a Christian and feels that I'm wrong. Yeah.
I feel really painful when we discuss Christianity, other religions. I really can't listen to this all the time because I feel like this is the point that all the religions, which every religion has some caricaturic image of other religions, and then when we go, I always say, when you say boy likes a girl, it's not enough. Normally it's enough to say this girl is so beautiful, but then imagine he'll start saying, but these other girls, they're so ugly and stupid. So I feel really bad because actually what happened to Christianity, it's such a long, it's such an old tradition now, it's changed by political and other stuff. So when we say that this Christian, we offend Christians who are not like that. For me, my church where I was raised, it's completely different from for example, we don't believe that the soul goes to the hell forever. Now I listen to Bhakti Shastri Kosbra Chaitanya Charaprabhu when he said, Christians, they are so uneducated, so they don't understand that the soul, it's not going to the hell forever, it's eternal. But in my religion, we believe, where I was in this church, we believe that Christ, because he descended to the hell, he broke the gates to the hell. So now everybody is...
can get out.
And then Chaitanya Charaprabhu said, or I was talking to Christian and I was asking, what about the babies who died before being born and they never know about Jesus, so do they go to the hell? And somebody said, like, the answer he was given, that they go to Christ. But actually it's not the answer in Catholic Church. In Catholic Church they have this limb, right, like one, there is...
That's almost the same as the Catholic Church.
I don't know, but there is in some Christian theology, there is some understanding that there is one, how it's called, level of the hell, but the
limbo.
babies, yeah,
In
limbo.
between.
Not purgatory.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still not that, like, you can't answer for all the Christians. So
Yeah.
I feel so bad, and almost every class somebody said, you know, Christians, they don't understand, but there are some Christians who understand, and then it's so difficult. We speak according to our understanding, but if we knew Christianity as good as we know Krishna consciousness, we would not tell like that. But I mean, even
I would, because I knew Christianity, I was.
I also was, but we're not. If we would understand it like much better, we may not come to Krishna consciousness. Like my husband, he's completing Christianity, and in the sense that his realizations are very dear to him. In the sense, not like that he just said, "Oh, Krishna is not God," but in the sense that he has some realizations, so we can't just discard them, you know. So I feel very bad when people say, "Oh, those Christians are like that; they're undeveloped," but it's not like that. I mean, Krishna is not like a denominational figure, you know. So when we say about other religions, we say that we are religion, but we are not. We are like more science of the soul. So that's really painful when people say about other religions, saying then like separating us from them and saying that now we're also religion. I feel very bad from that.
Sorry.
So I want to say it because it's not like you personal, but I hear it. Like I want to say that every class, but nobody else gives the opportunity to say so. Sorry.
Well, you do remember that Jesus did say that you are not ready for, I hate to say the word, you're not ready to eat solids. You have to eat milk. Oh God, no way.
Here, he said, I have much more to tell you, but you're not ready.
Yeah, but you
I don't
know
want
what
to
exactly
hear that.
you mean. Man, I mean, like, you know, like in Vaishnavism, like not Vaishnavism, Vaishnavism is religion, but like when we speak about Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we say that you can't interpret it. Like you have some, like we have different pramanas, like you can have some logic, you have something, but then we listen from authority like that. So we listen from Srila Prabhupada, we listen from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, like that. It goes from Krishna. So this is Shabda Brahma. But so we can't go to, like, you know what I say normally, like if you have a cake, you cut it with a knife. You can't take the saw and start cutting. You can do it, but it's not. So in Christianity they have different, like even different parts of Christianity. They have some accept like hierarchy, some not accepting any hierarchy. They just like take the book and whatever is written in the book they accept. So we can just take our like tools and go there because they not like develop to this level, but they have different tools to work with them, and then they take their tools and go to cut our cake. It's also ridiculous.
So denominational stuff, yeah.
So I mean, it works to some extent, but then when Prabhupada was saying about Christianity and everything, I think he was allowed to do it because he was preaching like to particular groups of people. But now when we're all Krishna conscious here, trying to be, and when he starts talking about Christians who are can't even answer us, I feel it's like a little bit.
Sounds like when I was in my first year, somebody told me Jesus was just a prophet, and I thought, I've heard blasphemy, but I have to. If I want Krishna, I have to tolerate blasphemy of Jesus. What do I do? You know, I felt that way, but it's been like almost like a fascination, a craving, a hunger to get the truth sorted out. And for me, so this is very important to understand that at the Nicene Council, they made a decision. Of course, this is one source I read. Maybe somebody will look it up and say, well, that's not what they're talking about. I don't know. This is one source that I read a few years ago, that there was some debate whether the soul pre-existed,
Yes.
and exactly who Jesus was. Was he a spiritual master, human, or was he
God?
So it was debate. They hadn't decided yet. So that Constantine got mad that his empire was not unified. So he said, you Christians work it out and decide what it is. And so they had a council and they voted. And it seems I remember that the losers were the ones who most agreed with the Vedic way, and they got driven out.
And they had more than one council too.
But they're still Christians. I mean, I'm saying that there's some Christians who don't accept the council. Like, for example, how it's called, in English. Like Newton, you know, he was in the sect, Christian sect, which says that they don't accept Trinity of God. There is something like that. I don't remember. So they're different. He's still Christian, right? But
They don't accept the divinity of God.
Trinity.
The Trinity.
Oh yeah.
God,
Trinity's
Son,
not
God the
really
Father, God the
clearly
Holy
in the
Ghost.
Bible. It's not.
But I'm just saying,
No, it's not.
you can say like that, but I'm just saying that the Christians, when we say Christians, we have
In
to
other
say
words,
what exactly, which
let's not-
Christian.
Which one?
Let's not be racist about this.
No, but my point is not
Which
like
flavor?
not to be racist, but I feel like our thing is like to like if you like a boy likes a girl, he can better to glorify this girl, not to criticize other girls,
Oh.
because that's what I feel. You know, I hope you
Well, no,
understand.
there's a purpose in it, but I guess I'm after all, your husband is you understand your husband's faith and you respect that, and that's a part of your life. So I guess maybe I'm insensitive in a way, but in another way, it's necessary to understand otherwise we'll stay in the level of sentimentality. We need to have a clear understanding. What's the difference? Okay, they have faith. Jesus came from God. Jesus taught love of God, and that was the instruction of Jesus. And so they have, if they believe in Jesus, and they try to follow His commandments. If they don't try to follow His commandments, some of them just say, "Well, all I got to do is trust in His death and resurrection, and I'm saved." Well, that's not what Jesus was teaching. Jesus was teaching the spiritual walk. Faith, loving God, loving one another. That was really more his angle. The idea of depending on the death and resurrection kind of came later. So there is that difference. So we can analyze that. If you just stay with the assumption from your Christian past that Christian is nice, it's true, and then that there's that, well, depending on the death and resurrection of Jesus is back behind that. And then you just have a sentimental position for Jesus, and like you turn off your philosophy when you get to a Christian holiday or something, and you remain on a sentimental level. So if we have a philosophical understanding of it, I end up still revering Jesus as what He is, but the Christians, many of them, do not understand the way I'm coming to understand.
Because it's your understanding. What I'm saying, it's not
No, it's not
sentimental.
my
I'm just-
understanding. I'm not making it up.
I'm talking about Christianity because it's what commonly known, but I feel like that not only about Christianity, but people like when they also start talking about Muslims. My husband is not Muslim. Is it sentimental that I feel like that about Islam? I just feel that every religion, if we are so expert in all the religions,
Everyone worships God some way.
Yeah, but
Feel it in their heart.
I'm not saying that their way is equal, because Prabhupada said if you want to go to Calcutta, you can take train. I mean, you can take train to another cities, but easier to take train to Calcutta. So, and Krishna says that not they always lead to the same destination. So I understand it perfectly, but I just feel, what is the point of, I mean, if you want to go to preach to Christians or Muslims, it's one point, but like when they're not here, well, I feel they end up just, how it looks. That not like you, but like how it looks when devotees start doing this. That they need to prove that their faith they need to prove to themselves that their faith is right. But I think we don't need to do it because it's right. We know that it is. So why should we prove it?
We need it in ourselves. You're a little bit of an exception to this because you're married to a Christian man, but within this Bhagavatam class, this is the only time that we should, just among the devotees, inside talk, we understand the differences and we say they're thinking this and this is the philosophical understanding about it. But this is supposed to be objective. It's not just like a boy it is objective. It's not just like a boy falls in love with a girl so he criticizes all the other girls. But if she happens to be,
that's the point.
If she happens to be like an A student and the other girls are C students, if he says she is an A student, and I relate to that, she is an A student, she's really smart, then he's not criticizing the other girls are C's, so I can't relate to that because they don't understand the material very well. Then he's being objective. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, my last point is that I'm not saying that it's not objective. I mean, it's not objective in the sense that if you take only this criteria that she is A student and they're C. But the thing is that the other girls in the class, they are not all C students. So in Christianity, you can't say that this is what Christians say, like this is what Muslims say. In Muslim, there's so many groups, like there are groups who even have Muslim bhakti to Allah. I mean, this is completely different system.
It's like if we say the Christians believe you should eat meat, because in the Bible, Paul said, to eat meat, if those who are, what is it?
Vegetarian, Essenes.
If
There are some
if they're
vegetarian,
vegetarians, that means their faith is weak.
but there are some vegetarian Christians.
There
Yeah,
are vegetarian Christians and there are like the Seventh-day Adventists, so they
Definitely.
absolutely do not believe in eating meat.
you know.
So, but if you say Christian, because most Christians teach almost that you should eat meat to prove your faith is strong, because that sentence is in the Bible.
Some.
No, in the Bible it's also said, like literally in the Bible said that not what comes to your mouth contaminates you, but what comes outside of your mouth. So it said it's not really important.
So the Christians would teach that, but all Christians don't. The Seventh-day Adventists teach that you should not eat meat.
Yeah, so why
But
should
we
we
say the Christians, because the main denominations officially teach this way. They do not say you should be vegetarian.
But like that, they will go to ISKCON also, they'll say they teach that. But even now we see that different gurus teach different things.
Well,
This is
would
very-
make my class a whole lot longer if I listed every single Christian denomination, and most of them do
That
not
they
have
talk about
do
that.
not have the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavatam knowledge.
But you were just talking about your brother's experience.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Madhava-priya, telling what Christians right now.
Oh, in
It's
general.
It was the point that I wanted. I mean, I wanted to say that it's just something that normally devotees do during classes, and I wanted not to criticize you personally. I
Her
wanted to
experience
say
in the past
that
has
my
been.
experiences, like even now I listen to Bhakti Shastri, and there's
Oh
it's all the
no!
time it's going like that.
Generalization. It's
yeah,
a
that's exactly,
generalization.
not like right now. Now it wasn't like it was about personal experience, your experience with your brother, who is particular Christian, who is like particular sect denomination.
Did you know
So
Yeah.
it's one thing,
Did you know
but there's
that
thing
today
that the
most
people start
Christians
saying,
don't-
"Oh, Christians
they
are
teach
like that,"
something
and that's what's happening all the time.
I
So
had
we
an
should
aunt
be
who
more-
was- I have an aunt
Well,
who
we
is.
we should be very respectful
Yeah, I've seen
of,
the literature.
because if somebody has faith in God,
It is
that
written.
means they feel the super soul in their heart.
Yeah.
And that's real, whether they understand or not, that's real. And they believe that God created nature, that's real. They sense God in the beauty of nature, that's real, because it's true. All these things are true. But then the Christians and the Hare Krishnas have these arguments going on a lot of times in this. So the Hare Krishnas maybe are not sensitive enough about, because Jesus is real. Okay, Jesus taught the love of God. So we don't down Jesus. But we don't believe he's God. But they do. So that's a real different idea of Jesus. A very different idea, but it's the same guy, the same person, Jesus, but a very different idea about it.
But I think for me, I like what, as I understand what Prabhupada was also saying, that the important thing is not who is Jesus, the important thing is that Christianity, even if it's like very nice way to go back to God, and the way, even if it was, I don't know if it is. The thing is that it misinterpreted because there is no parampara system. And as you were saying, you can't even know what exactly Jesus said, because there's hundreds of translations of Bible, like that, there are hundreds of translations of Bhagavad Gita, but we know that this one is correct. So they don't have this thing, and this is the main thing, that their knowledge, even if it's good in some place, it's not as pure as it could be. So they, like even when they, like even Christians among themselves argue if they can't eat meat or it's not important and
Right.
they have to eat meat or they don't have, like
Right,
it's
Steve
because
saying.
when they open a Bible, you don't even know. Even then, they go to manuscripts and they translate. But there are many manuscripts in Hebrew and like in Latin language. There are so many. So it's just, and when they go to this discussion, it's becoming even worse because they have their own quarrels among themselves because of it. So my point is, it's better to preach only what Krishna's, like what Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness, Srimad Bhagavatam, not trying to argue with them, because they will say, oh, we don't think like that, it's that thing like that. So then we go to argue about with different Christian, and like there's so many traditions. So but when we present truth as it is, without going to their truths, it's much better, because then we can't argue with, like, it's our truth which we give to them, not saying what, like trying to go into their philosophy, which we don't really know because we can't know all the denominations.
Well, we can't even give them very much about. As soon as we tell that you're not the body, we've already gone against them.
But
Because
not,
they think they
not
are the
everybody.
body.
There's
Because
so
in
many,
some of-
not all of them.
Almost all of the Bible makes it like you're the body.
But this,
I mean, how do they get
but
the idea
this
of
this
reincarnation somewhere
this
else?
brother in discussion actually stood right here in this temple,
And challenged me.
and then he challenged
But I mean,
her.
I'm saying for me, it sounds
So
also.
it's a personal, I guess, with that particular one.
Like,
I understand what you're saying.
But in church where I was, like there are many people who just come on Sundays, and they don't. My mother, like she doesn't even know the 10 Commandments, what to say about everything. So still, she's Christian, you know, because she goes like once a year in a church and takes some holy water like that. But she's not. you have to be Christian, you have to follow like that. So if you don't follow, you're not Christian, so what's the point? And that if you say, I'm not this body, I'm this body, they may not understand what you mean actually, because the vocabulary of religion is completely different. So.
And there's some Vaishnavas that come on the festival days too, and don't really understand completely the tattva. So I guess on both sides.
Even Indians who come, the Krishna consciousness.
Or Americans.
They can, I mean, some Indians, they can't, like Hindus, they can't understand what you're talking about because it's very difficult.
So they're Mayavadis or something. You know, they got some Mayavadi contamination.
Yeah. But my point is that not like I was criticizing you and your approach because you just share your experience. That's what I'm just saying that this sometimes that's what devotees do. They just talk about.
She's experienced this.
Here's another personal experience. When I first joined and I met my first guru the first time, and I said I wanted to know how to follow Jesus better or something like that. And he said he got testy. He got like tensed up, you know, and got a little impatient with me. He said, well, the best way to follow Jesus is to follow Prabhupada. and I was like, you know, I was afraid to bring it up again. And I thought, why is he mean about this? But then, you know, in another couple of years, I was the same way. Because when you actually go out with books and you go out and try to confront the material energy by giving them this book somehow, then those kind of Christians pop up. You're going to hell because you don't believe in Jesus. And it's like those are the kind of Christians that become predominant in your mind, because those are the kinds that rise up and fight you with the same old thing, and they won't hear anything you say about it. They just say, you're going to go to hell because you don't believe in Jesus. And so don't believe in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Or if you do, you don't believe in it the right way. You know, they're determined. And then you get the word, the Christian, you get it in your mind that those are the ones that fight you, you know, and that aggravate you. And then you do meet Christians who do listen. You know, you can have a discussion with them. You do meet people like that. But
and then some of the Christians that fought you were really Paulians, not followers of Jesus.
Yeah, but they don't make that distinction.
No, they don't know.
We make the distinction, but they, because we have the whole Vedic philosophy to compare it by, and they don't have that. So if just going by the Bible, even when they voted in the Nicene Creed that certain mainline churches like the Catholic Church at least recite it every Mass, then like I believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, the Maker of heaven and earth, the one that is seen and unseen. I believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of the Father, begotten, not made, eternal, you know, like that.
Yeah.
They recite it. And that is not Bible language.
It's not.
There's no direct Bible quotes in it. It's their summary of where they think it should be interpreted. It's not direct Bible quotes.
Yeah, this is the problem.
And everybody at the Nicene Council, one of them, they had several, and one of them, the people who disagreed and said, no, our faith tells us this. They had to get out of town. They wanted to kill them. The group wanted to kill them, so they had to run. You know, can you imagine a delegation of people that felt a certain way about the Bible? Said, we better get out of here.
So Christians who are brought up in these main traditions are brought up with this creed, and no matter if they have sensitivity to the super soul in their heart, they really love Jesus and try to follow him. They really try to study, try to be really sincere about it. They don't have, because of that creed, they have a block to understand what we're saying. You know, it's really hard, because if we talk about reincarnation, it's like, oh, you know, it's wrong to them, because their creed says, no, we're born with the body. I mean, their whole teaching is, and in the Old Testament, when God made Adam, then he breathed his soul into him, and that was like the creation of Adam, and the soul starts with the body, and it's eternal from thereafter. But we say, no, Krishna said, we have direct quotes for our beliefs, and Krishna says, never was a time when you did not exist, nor I, nor these kings.
And that's okay, because the soul was in, all the souls in God, and he just put one in Adam.
Yeah, but apparently they don't believe that they really existed as separate souls until
but there's Christians who believe, like even before this, like Origen, for example.
He was one of the guys who got driven out.
Yeah, but I'm saying still for church they may not be Christians, but actually they are.
Yeah.
But I really like that Dear Krishna Maharaj, like you know when you often say that you can't be like you know, that you can be Krishna conscious and you don't have to change your religion. That's what they say. And what does it mean? And actually, I think I read that he was saying that, what does it mean actually? I mean, of course you cannot, like normally, you can't, if you want to be Catholic, you cannot, if you start coming to the temple, chant 60 rounds and
You have to change something.
No, but they will not accept you in the church, that's how it works.
Yeah.
But actually, it doesn't mean that. It means that actually when you become Krishna conscious, you follow the instructions of Jesus or Muhammad, so you follow them in a real way, how it's supposed to be. And in this sense, you're Christian, you're Muslim.
Yeah.
But the thing is, yeah, in some particular building you'll not be accepted like that, but it's what is important. So even when we speak about this in this sense, that you can be Christian like that, but you also can be Krishna conscious at the same time. It doesn't say that you have to think about denominations. It's mostly about it. And the thing is that you have to follow Krishna conscious instructions of Prabhupada and Krishna, and this will help us to follow Jesus and other figures, because their instructions, they're covered now by so many things that even if you want to follow Jesus, like as we really want, you know, it's not possible, because it's not possible to find.
As a Christian, you can't figure out how to follow Jesus really.
Yeah, that's the problem. So they're not real Christians. They're just show bottles.
Yeah.
If you said the Lord, if you replace Krishna with the Lord is so wonderful, the Lord, thank you, Lord, for this wonderful day. And I'm focusing on the Lord. I try to meditate on the Lord for 2 hours while I chant, while I pray. Some devotees have used those words. And people say, wow, you're a fantastic believer. If they say believer, they might say, what denomination are you?
Well, I remember that at the eye doctor that we got an eye doctor that prays. So he's a Christian. He prays over people before he starts surgery. So.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So the first time he started praying, once I was laying, you know, on the table all doped up. You know, they put this medicine, you take this medicine to make you all relaxed and everything, so they can do stuff to you, and as well as numbing in the eye, you know. But they don't put you all the way under. So there I was in that condition. He starts praying. So he finishes, and I pop up with Hare Krishna after his Amen, and he goes, oh. And then I thought, you know, it's going to be. But then, you know, next time we came, he said, he looked it up. He said, I looked it up, you know. And he was like really friendly about it. Oh, okay. So I explained a little. I said, you want me to explain what the difference? I explained some of the differences about how, understanding of who Jesus is, etc. I explained it. And he said, oh, okay. And I explained why we chant the holy names, because we've been away from God for so long that we got to reawaken that relationship. So I explained like that, and I thought, that was nice, thank you. So that was really nice. What did I start with this?
He noticed the Tulsi beads too.
Yeah, he noticed the Tulsi beads, and he had looked it up anyways. But I don't know why I started to tell
You just
story.
saying that he was praying, and there was this prayer, and he was saying, and you said Hare Krishna.
Yeah, he was open, but that's the next part of the story. He says he hadn't prayed yet for the second operation. So he said, okay, that's really nice. So now can we pray? Is it okay if we pray to God? I said, okay, sure. But I didn't say Hare Krishna after that. I gave him enough of it, you know, and I wasn't doped up so much yet, so I didn't. But I wasn't doped up at all yet, so I had some control. And so I didn't, announce my Hare Krishna after his Amen. But
I did.
you did.
He asked me, he said, brother, can we play Brother Chris? And we held hands, and I said, sure, anytime's a good time for a prayer. And he said, Hare Krishna. At the end.
So anyways, they think that Krishna is different from God. Because the Bible says foreign gods. You know, and anything that's foreign to them, therefore, is a foreign God with a small g. And it's not like they don't understand, you know, the God of Israel is the one. Why is he only the God of Israel? How about the God of everybody? And they pray to him as Krishna, but they can't grasp that, you know. They can't explain that this youthful, beautiful blue boy is the God they've been praying to all this time, because they believe Michelangelo's painting. And God is an old man with a bunch of beard and hair and muscles, and he's wearing this pink robe, and that's it.
And Michelangelo's not right. That was his
No, it was
concoction.
his invention. It was made up. They have no description in the Bible that God's an old man with muscles and hair.
And not all Muslims, I'm doing a little study on Islam, not all Muslims believe you can't have any picture of God. But they do. The ones who believe you can have pictures don't believe you don't do a picture of God either. But you can have a picture of people in animals and stuff like that. But some members of Islam, they say nothing that's living should be immortalized in a picture or art or anything like that. It's just design.
And then they think that other people, Muslims,
Anything
are
else.
not Muslims.
Right.
So this is completely so difficult. I mean, it's just madness. So, and all
It
this
goes
madness
on.
comes to my head when I listen to some lectures.
Well, you know, as you yourself sorted all out, like it took me years sorted out. I had to go deeper and deeper to unearth things that were holding me back because I had some Christian idea that I felt guilty to leave. And so it took me years to dig up all the last things to really feel. Finally, what I did was I re-entered my Christian prayers. No, this isn't finally, because after that I looked up in the place of Christianity and reincarnation. That's when I read about the councils. But almost finally, I re-entered my Christian prayers, like the Our Father and Hail Mary, and I prayed to them. I said, I gave you my heart, and now I want to follow Jesus. I want to follow Krishna and give my heart to Krishna. And I know you believe in Krishna, so please give me permission. Just by praying that prayer, then I felt free to move forward. So I had to go really, really deep. And I had to sort out this reincarnation, how it got this way, different from the different beliefs about it. I had to sort everything out. I had to go so deep, and actually becomes very fascinating to me and very satisfying. But in the beginning, it was like scary and uncomfortable. I felt like they're committing blasphemy and stuff.
Most of the Christians don't go that deep, like there is, even in different denominations, there are different books of Bible which you can't read. They're not suggested to.
Yeah.
And this is madness. I mean, this is really very, if we go deep, like we should not go deep in Christian tradition just like that, because what's the point? We have books. But it's good when they do that, because the religion's contaminated by politics very much, and
that's what I think they're afraid of. I told my brother, it's fear. What happened to perfect love casts out fear? And he said, I'm not afraid. I read the books. So you can't tell them that. They don't feel quaking in their boots afraid, but there's still a certain fear that's taught.
yeah.
Having come to the path of being a Baha'i, this is like amazing seeing that.
Well, the Baha'is too.
But they make Krishna a prophet. They have to equalize. They have to equalize.
They have some other manufactured prophet of God. They have some founder of their. So
Baha'u'llah. Yeah, the Bab and Baha'i.
So you think that they're including Krishna consciousness? Oh, nice, the Baha'is include Krishna. Yeah, by changing it.
So that's
changed it to a prophet.
Yeah.
So this is Baha'i is completely madness for me. It's just something like they just made it up.
Just make it all fit like.
No, it's like make it fit. Let's all be peaceful.
To look politically correct, like just tolerant. If you just embrace everything, it doesn't make you. It doesn't make it true,
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this is a nice discussion because I think this is very important for devotees to talk into this,
Yeah, we really have to dig in and sort it all out. We can't just gloss over it and assume that everything is nice. We can't just do like that. We have to dig into it.
But I think what the point taken is that we have to be careful when we commenting on other. If we don't know their philosophy.
No,
we don't want blasphemy.
Again, not every Christian is real Christian, real devotee of the Lord. But some are. So
but if somebody just believes in God, we should not just blaspheme them.
No.
We should be careful.
Like even Prahlad Maharaj, he was not, or Dhruva, he was not devotee of then when he became. His stepmother was punished and her son. So like that, we should be careful not criticizing in the sense that we don't know what will happen to them. Maybe they're already devotees, or maybe they'll become. Yeah. Maybe their realization is on a higher level than my personal. So even though I'm a devotee of Krishna, but maybe I'm so fallen that. So that's what my point is. Not like you are personally bad.
It is painful sometimes to run into Christians and say you're going to hell. Been there, done that. You can say been there, done that.
Yeah.
I hope I have to do it again.
Because they won't. There's nothing you can say. They won't, and you don't want to destroy their faith. You don't want to fight that with all your weapons. You don't want to do that. So you have to let them insult you because you don't want to insult them.
Because then they won't have anything.
Yeah.
If they're not going to accept Krishna consciousness or anything.
Don't preach to Krishna. You're not supposed to preach to those kind of Christians and try to, because they may just give up on everything.
But this is very interesting conversation.
Well, thank you for the class.
Thank you everybody for contributing.
Hey.
All goes to Srimad Bhagavatam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri
Jai Shri Prabhupada.